Hey everyone, welcome on in to Sports Live in the 215. Today we'll discuss the Eagles picking up the fifth-year option on defensive tackle Jordan Davis. Um, Obviously, I think that's a very well. It's first actually let's get into how much the fifth-year option on the former first-round defensive tackle will cost the Eagles. And it's actually valued at 12.9 million, which is a pretty penny to pay for a guy who hasn't be- hasn't yet become the pass rusher that the Eagles hoped he would by now. Um, See, I think there's time for that because for one thing, Jordan is only 25, um, and um, so sometimes pass rushing for defensive tackles is is a lot harder of a skill to develop. Um, and I would think the reason for that. Oh, excuse me. I would think the reason for that is because when you're stopping the run, you just have to beat the blocker and then um, continue going downhill to get the running back. Um, whereas whereas with rushing the passer, you have to kind of start you have to kind of beat the blocker by well usually you start downhill when you beat the blocker, beat the offensive lineman, and then you have to kind of work up the field, and that's a lot hard. That could be a lot harder for um, defensive tackles as opposed to defensive ends, even though a lot of defensive tackles are closer to the quarterback than the running back. But um, I would just think that's probably why like a lot of defensive tackles start off as primarily run stoppers, and then their pass rushing skill um, div- it it doesn't always happen this way, but it seems to happen this way a lot of times. Like it develops like toward their mid-20s or even later into their careers. So I think this could be one of those cases with Davis that um like he he could just be a late bloomer as far as the pass rushing skill is concerned. Um Now, um now like I mentioned, he's a tremendous run stopper. And like, obviously the Eagles wanted him to be a great pass rusher as well, like he was in college. But the difference is they don't need him to be. I I think that's what makes he and Jalen Carter so special, is because like in the NFL, like Jalen Jalen Jalen's more of the pass rusher of the two. And don't get me wrong, Jalen Carter can stop the run just as good as Jordan Davis. Um, and he can also rush the passer. But I bring that up to say that Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter um, complement each other very, very well. And they've done that for they've done that for like three years in the NFL and 4 or 3 years in college at UGA. So yeah, so the having those two guys kind of anchor the middle of your defense is huge. It's like having like having Reggie White and Jerome Brown. Not saying that Jordan Davis is Jerome Brown uh, or Jalen Carter is Reggie White, but it's a very like similar vein, and both Jalen and Jordan are both tied at the hip like Reggie and Jerome were. Like they were always they they were always um, they were always good friends going back to college, and a nice inverse to the way the Reggie White Jerome Brown story unfortunately ended. Jalen and Jordan had their next year. Like they were able to lift the Lombardi Trophy, and unfortunately, because Jerome Brown had passed away, in 1992, I believe. Like that would have been or 1990. It would have been either 91 and 92. It was the year that Cunningham that was 91. Never mind. Yeah. Like the year Cunningham shattered his leg. Like if Randall doesn't get hurt, there's zero doubt in my mind with that defense and how explosive Randall was able to make that offense in an offense that wasn't necessarily like quarterback friendly. Like that wasn't even a term in 1991. It was just go out and go play. Like, but anyway, so I say that I'm saying all that to say like Jordan and Jalen kind of were able to they were able to finish what Jerome and Reggie kind of started as far as being a great D-line tandem. Although Reggie played a lot of his snaps on the edge, but I heard from my dad that all those guys on the 1991 Eagles defensive line like played all 4 defensive line positions, the 2 defensive tackles and the 2 defensive end spots. But anyway, yeah, obviously back to Jordan. I think he's a really solid player, and he deserves every bit of his near $13 million extension. Sorry, something came in my eye. And I think his pass rushing will develop, like, and Rhea Hughes, who was on the morning show with Joe DeCamara and John Ritchie, she's one of the co-hosts along with Devin Caney and James Seltzer, who's like their producer. She mentioned that Vic Fangio probably had his fingerprint all over it. If Vic Fangio didn't want Jordan here, he wouldn't. Jordan Davis's 5th-year option probably wouldn't have been picked up. So, which is it. It's certainly telling that not only does the veteran defensive coordinator know what he's talking about and doing, he also he also like knows what he needs for his defense to be successful. And I don't believe he's ever truly had this much talent on any of his defenses, excuse me. And all, like, I know the San Francisco years with Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman. I believe there was another linebacker by the name of Chris Borland, who retired when he was like 24, 25. Like, they were a ridiculously talented defense. But no, it's nowhere near the list of names like Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Jahad Campbell now. Well, now having Jahad Campbell, that's what I mean. Now having Andrew Nakuba from Texas, replacing C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Who else? Adoree Jackson is probably going to play the second outside corner next to Quinyon Mitchell. So there's this defense is ridiculously talented. Point being, and Jordan Davis is just another example of that. If he can develop his pass rushing, excuse me, he will be a tremendous. He'll just be even more of a force, and he's already such a force in stuffing the run. He's such a lethal weapon. In terms of throwing an offense's drive off, because if they decide to run the ball on first and second down, he can come up and make a play on the running back for a loss of 2 or 3. Now it's 2nd and 12 or 13. Now they have to pass, and the guys who are your better pass rushers can kind of pin their ears back and just go get the quarterback, essentially. So, yeah. So Jordan Davis is as key to this defense as Cooper DeJean, as Quinyon Mitchell, as Jalen Carter, as all of these guys. As Jahad Campbell, potentially, as Nakobe Dean, as Zach Bond. Like I would put him right in the center, in the center of like your cast of characters. And some people in this Philadelphia sports space would probably disagree with that, because it's just the perception on him is he's only good at stopping the run. No, he's lethal at stopping the run. He like I don't believe there's a I don't believe there's a better defensive tackle at just from a pure run stopping perspective that is his age. There could be one who's 5 or 6 or maybe even more years into their career, but they're kind of already pigeonholed into that role. And I think Jordan Davis has the ability to become an elite pass rusher, and he's shown the ability to work on his conditioning and get in better shape, because in 2023 he was just in horrible condition, and uh, in 24 when Fangio came in, his first priority was to tell Jordan, like, you you need to get your behind in shape. And credit to Jordan, he did that. I think he dropped like 10 pounds of excess weight. So in one off season. So credit to him. And yeah, I hope he does become the lethal pass rusher that the Eagles want him to be, not necessarily need him to be. But I think he can, but time will tell if it actually pans out. I really want to thank you guys for listening to this, and as always, go Birds. Have a great night, everybody.